My dear compatriots, dear brothers, dear sisters, we can be proud of our army, whose modernization is now effective. It is in this context that we have decided on the coordinated and organized withdrawal of French forces from Côte d'Ivoire. Thus, the camp of the 43rd Marine Infantry Battalion, the Marine Infantry Battalion of Port Bouet, will be returned to the armed forces of Côte d'Ivoire, and it's expected to take place starting this January after much preparation.
We have just heard an excerpt from Ivorian President Alassane Watara, where he proudly highlights the effective modernization of the country's army. He goes on to announce a major shift in policy, the withdrawal of French forces from Ivory Coast, effectively ending decades of French military presence. This bold decision mirrors similar moves across West Africa, marking a turning point in the region's relationship with its former colonial power. Yet, as pivotal as this announcement appears, it comes with complexities and debates about what it truly means for Ivorian sovereignty. Ivory Coast now joins Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Chad in severing military ties with France. On the surface, this looks like another triumph for African self-determination. However, some observers caution that France may simply be adjusting its influence strategy from overt military control to more indirect economic and political methods. Over the past 2 years, the Sahel region has witnessed the unraveling of France's long-standing military partnerships. Operation Barain, launched in 2014, originally deployed over 5,000 troops across the Sahel and ended in 2022 amid local protests and official demands for French forces to leave. In 2021, Mali's transitional government, led by Colonel Assimi Goïta, asked French troops to depart, accusing them of worsening security instead of improving it. Burkina Faso followed in 2022 by cancelling agreements and expelling French forces. Niger took similar steps in 2023, and Chad soon followed in December 2024, claiming that French involvement no longer aligned with its national goals. Ivory Coast, historically a linchpin of French influence in Africa, is now adding its voice to this wave of change. Some Ivorians see this development as a genuine push for autonomy. Others, however, remain skeptical, suggesting President Ouattara, often seen as closely linked to French interests, may be making a primarily symbolic gesture. Many point out that true independence goes beyond the removal of foreign troops. Drawing on examples from Mali and Burkina Faso, critics stress the importance of uprooting old colonial-era systems that still maintain African reliance on French economic and political frameworks. For Ivory Coast to genuinely stand on its own, it needs to prioritize economic independence, reclaim control over key resources like cocoa, gold, and oil, ensuring that profits benefit the nation rather than foreign companies, moving Ivorian reserves out of Paris and disengaging from the CFA franc, originally tied to French monetary oversight, are also crucial steps. Political and legal autonomy. Reassess or dismantle colonial-era agreements that force reliance on France for essential infrastructure and governance. Cultural reclamation. Elevate local languages, education systems, and cultural values over remnants of colonial-era influences. Without such fundamental changes, the withdrawal of French troops may amount to little more than a powerful symbol. Across West Africa, many citizens have supported bold measures, such as military takeovers in Mali and Burkina Faso, that reject foreign intervention even when international opinion has been critical. France's reduced military footprint in Ivory Coast may signal the end of its traditional dominance in the region. But the question remains whether Ivorians and other African nations can fully escape France's political and economic hold. Although stepping back from direct military operations, France could still rely on subtler forms of control through trade, diplomacy, and cultural influence. For President Ouattara, proving that Ivory Coast can genuinely chart its own path will be the true test. Observers around the world are watching closely to see if his government follows the example of Sahel countries that have openly championed self-determination. Skeptics warn that without tackling the deeper issues of economic and political dependence, Ivory Coast's move could be more about optics than an authentic break from colonial legacies. Yet the shifting political climate in West Africa is undeniable. Nations like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have shown that casting off unwanted foreign involvement can indeed bring about new possibilities. Their push for autonomy has exposed the weaknesses of outdated neocolonial models and compelled France to re-evaluate its role in Africa. Ultimately, President Ouattara's announcement could mark either a dramatic turning point or a calculated public relations gesture. If Ivory Coast truly pursues comprehensive change, reforming economic structures, untangling old political agreements, and revitalizing local culture, then it may well achieve the sovereignty it promises. However, if these underlying issues remain unaddressed, critics will likely see this move as no more than a rebranding of the status quo. For now, the world watches Ivory Coast's next steps. Will the nation follow the Sahel's path of rigorous self-determination, or will it allow France to maintain its influence through less visible channels? The answers lie in the policies President Ouattara and his government choose to adopt. Here at Voice of Africa, we'll keep you updated on these developments and continue to examine the broader quest for genuine independence across the continent.